the game, cause see the boxing voice.
Welcome back, gang, for the first time and hopefully many more to come. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click on the notifications right here, this little bell, so you can get those emails every time we go.
ThaBoxingvoice.com, live here with Joe Markowski of Dazn. Can you just tell the world, what is it that you do at Dazn? Are you the equivalent of Adam Sky at Sky Sports? Adam Smith.
It's Adam Smith. I run the North American business for Dazn, so I run the US and Canadian markets for Dazn. That's my job.
So, anything to do with making the fights?
We have an active participation in making the fights, so obviously we have close relationships with a few promoters now, obviously Matchroom with Eddie, with Golden Boy around the Canelo and all their wider stable of fighters, and with Bellator and Combate Americas on the MMA side of things. And in all of those relationships we have a pretty active seat at the table in advising the promoters what fights we want to see. The beauty of Dazn obviously is we sit on, as a digital broadcaster, significantly enhanced data from our consumer base, so we know what fans are enjoying, what they're not watching so much. And increasingly, as we get more and more mature in the US with a fight sports focused audience, we're using that data to advise our promotional partners what fights we want to see, and they're delivering for us, and this is the latest example of that.
Now, you guys were very aggressive in acquiring Canelo, and then you were aggressive in acquiring opponents for Canelo. When would that same aggression start for Anthony Joshua and getting some US-based opponents? Obviously, Dazn streaming to the US, that's where your importance lies.
I think it's a bit of a myth around Anthony Joshua that he doesn't take big fights. Look at what he's done in the first sort of 20-odd fights of his career. He's fought significantly higher opponents and harder opponents than other heavyweights had done at a similar time. So that's the first thing. I think it's an unfair accusation that's levelled at him quite regularly. It's important for Anthony to come and fight in the US as a means of establishing his brand here. If you want to be a global superstar, you've got to crack America. It's not just true of athletes, it's true of bands and musicians as well. So we're encouraged by Anthony's commitment to come and do that. He recognises that. It's a great first introduction to AJ for the American fight fans, and we're looking to build on that. He said it on the stage this afternoon. He's looking to build on that. He's called out Tyson Fury, he's called out Deontay Wilder. He wants those big fights. He wants to fight on the big stage here in the US. So I don't think there'll be a particularly long wait until that starts to happen, and we'll be an active participant in helping those things to happen.
Now, Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua addressed it a bit, but they weren't sure of how the particulars would work out with a traditional network co-partnering with the Dazn, a streaming app. How would a fight with, let's say, ESPN and Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua on Dazn work out for US streaming services?
Well, to happen, the parties have to work across the aisle. We're willing to do that. We're on record as saying we're willing to do that. We'll engage in those conversations at the right time. Right now we're focused on, and AJ's focused on, his fight with Big Baby Miller on the 1st of June here in New York. Longer term, when we get into that, if we need to go and work across the aisle, we will. We're willing to do that. We're a creative organisation commercially. We're willing to give and take if that's what's required to make these fights happen to fight fans. We want to make the best fights happen, and we want to deliver those to fight fans in the best possible way. That's pretty clear and transparent in the way that we price and offer our product. That's also true of making the big fights happen with fighters and promoters who are locked into other broadcast relationships. We're willing to come to the table, we're willing to be creative, and I'd encourage my friends in the broadcast community to do the same.
How much more valuable was Big Baby Miller in this particular fight for Dazn versus a Dillian Whyte or another UK or Eastern European fighter?
Well, it's pretty obvious that AJ fighting American is more valuable in the US for someone like me running a US broadcast business than if AJ was to fight a British or a Russian or a Ukrainian fighter in the US. So we wanted a hometown or a domestic fighter. Big Baby Miller, I think, is being dismissed quite easily by a lot of your colleagues in the media. We don't see him as a walkover. We think he's a genuine top 10 contender, one of the higher ranked contenders, and we're looking forward to a great fight on June the 1st between these two heavyweights.
The reason I ask is because obviously Dillian Whyte, a Sky Sports fighter, works with Matchroom, came out and said that there was a lot of pressure from Dazn on Anthony Joshua to make a US-based fight, and that's why he was being so, I guess, cheap in the negotiations with Dillian.
I can't speak to AJ's negotiations, that's not under my control. What I can say is, of course, transparently, for me, running a US broadcast business, we are open and honest and public in saying that we want AJ to fight in the US. We've encouraged AJ to do that. We've demonstrated to him the value of doing that longer term for his career. He's seen that, he understands it, and we're working in partnership to deliver his debut here in the US, and hopefully many more fights to come.
Since you said you had intake on the fights, what's your short list for 2019 for AJ AJ's opponents?
We'll get into that once AJ gets through Big Baby Miller. I think an American phrase I've learned: don't sleep on Big Baby Miller, and I'm hoping that AJ will, well, I know he will, remain focused towards that on June the 1st. We're looking forward to delivering that to our subscriber base in June.
And Big Baby, he had a 2-fight deal with Thomas Adamek back on Dino. After that, it expired. Did this renew, and how many fights?
I'm not going to talk about our relationships with fighters publicly. That's a question for Eddie. If he wants to expand on that, he can expand on that. That's a question for Eddie Hearn.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Subscribe and share. As always, if you want to support us to the next level, head over to the patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice. We have tons of exclusive from Border Wars, Entitled, betting shows, the list goes on and on and on. But in addition to that, if you guys have questions for fighters, trainers, and promoters, this is where you can submit them. We will run out, get these questions answered, and put it back on the show just for you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.